I walked into a classroom in an elementary school in the South Bronx, and it was a first grade class, and the teacher had asked the kids to draw a drawing of what 9/11 meant to them. And this little boy named Thomas came up to me with his drawing, and there were these two little boxes in the background with smoke coming out, and in the foreground were two stick figure boys with guns pointed at each other. And the story was, I'm afraid to come to school every day. 9/11 for me is very, very far away. So what we learned was that our pattern in the data was the same as the story in Thomas's drawing. That context is local and immediate for children. That's what was producing fear, stress, and activating the biologic systems we've been talking about. Cortisol, oxytocin, limbic system. And not only that, the symptoms were most intense where these systems had been activated before because of prior trauma. That's what was explaining the pattern that we saw in the data. It made school for many children a very scary place, a place where it was hard to concentrate. But here's what was going on in New York at the time. There was a big effort, I guess as there is today, to improve academics, but without a complete understanding of the role of stress and its effects on the limbic system, the very structures in the brain that are essential for learning. And if we narrowly target academics and not the way children become learners in the first place and the barriers and accelerators to that, children aren't going to be able to do what we are asking of them. And then if you up the academic pressure, children are going to be left farther and farther behind. So what we saw was something that to this day is still one of the most under-recognized causes of the persistence of the achievement gap. So it was the time where I made the decision to leave my practice and found Turnaround for Children, an organization that was going to build tools and services and practices that could turn any school into a positive developmental force in a child's life. And that's what Turnaround's mission is to this very day. So Thomas's school is not an exception. Okay, today in America, greater than 51% of children are growing up in low-income households, and that number is going up, not down. And it is across every demographic, urban, suburban, and rural. And here's the other thing. Stress that's caused by adversity is not an on-off switch. It's not something you either have or you don't. It exists as a spectrum of intensity, and it produces differing effects on children. But what is alarming is to imagine how many kids are going to show up at school struggling to focus and concentrate. Think of the challenge that that presents to the kids and to the teachers. So Turnaround has worked in over 100 schools like this, and in every single one of them, the pattern has been the same. Lots of children unready for learning, a negative culture, incredibly significant academic underperformance, but most of all, a teaching staff that feels that nothing in their training prepared them for this set of challenges. But we, today, can trace this pattern. This is a biologic mechanism gone awry. Okay, just like what we said at the top. A biologic mechanism of stress that has been unbuffered, and stress that needs a response in the form of positive context. So when you think about this, that trust is the antidote to stress, that a positive context can override the negative at the level of the cell, why not use the science and stop asking children to beat the odds? Why don't we use what we know to change the odds for many more children?